רואה את לא נרדמת כמה ימים, השמש לא נכנסת כלום לא טעים, הנה זה בא.
Thank you. I would like to ask Maytal, I see you in the back, to close the doors for me. Thank you. This is a really special day for me because I finally get to welcome you and thank you for joining us here today in joy and music and in hope. I'm Tammy Kisis. I'm the founding head of school at Irvine Hebrew Day School. And I am so grateful to welcome all of you to the Violins of Hope concert program today. I also want to welcome via live stream guests tuning in from different parts of the country and the world. Thank you for being here. Since purchasing this property, these 5 acres, more than 2.5 years ago, for our kindergarten through 8th grade students, our school community has grown. It was a dream of ours before COVID hit that we would be able to host wonderful events just like this, especially the Violins of Hope to our community. This is our very first event with all of you in 2.5 years. As a school and a community, it's always been our desire to make our campus feel like a home that is filled with peace and the arts, with Jewish life, and to honor all of those people who have sacrificed so much for all of us to be able to be here together, living freely. Our remarkable founders, Karen Hepner and Andy Elster, had a vision. And with the steadfast support of our incredible board, partners in our community, supporters, philanthropists, and everybody from our parents to our staff, they have helped make this campus come to life, not just for the children, but for the entire community. Together today in this beautiful performance hall, we're united by music, which I personally believe is a universal language, transcending ideologies, differences of all kinds, and brings us towards a better future. At this moment together, I feel inspired, and I hope you are along with me, that we can envision what it will be to build a brighter, safer, more loving future for all of our children. Before we introduce our special guests, I would like to take a moment and invite my children, not my children that live all over the country now in Orange County, but my Irvine Hebrew Day School children, our students, to join me up on stage, as I would like for you to help me lead us in Hatikva. Would Irvine Hebrew Day School students who would like to come and join me, please come up on the stage here with me now. Come on up. Come on up. Come here. So good. Hey, now look at me. As you can tell, when we invite our students to be on a stage, they don't shy away from public performance. I would like to also note that one of our students, Adine Hepner, will be accompanying them on the piano. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to honor our very special guest today. We have Holocaust survivors sitting among us. Sorry, I'm so happy that you're here. Will you please stand if you're comfortable, or raise your hand so we can see you? I'd like to invite all of us to stand now as our students lead us in the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva, which fittingly means the hope. Adine, you can begin. So we had everybody from kindergarten all the way up to our first graduating class of students joining us on the stage. Thank you, students. I would like to now introduce you to a truly phenomenal person. Suzanne Reto and I met a few years ago almost now, and we spoke together about bringing a few violins to our school community. Before we knew it, we had a much bigger vision, and here today, Suzanne is here to share with you what we are about to see. Suzanne Reto is the Executive Director of Violins of Hope, and I'd like for her to join us.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. And with that kind of an emotional beginning, I'm just bursting with pride, joy, and happiness for many, many reasons. One of which is that this program started 4.5 years ago, with Tammy a little over 2 years ago, and we weren't sure it will ever happen. And with Tammy's tenacity and incredible desire to do this, here we are, and amazing. What a turnout and what a beautiful day to present these incredible musicians. And before we go any further, I'd like to introduce a very brief film for you to see what Violins of Hope is all about. And once you've seen the man, the founder, and his words, I'll be speaking to you in just a few more minutes and expand on the Violins of Hope program. And since almost everywhere I speak, people, the first question is, how did I come to do this? I will give you a very brief commentary on it. So now let's have the video, please.
Miraculously, some of their instruments survived. Scarred, beaten by weather and sometimes in pieces. A few of these long-forgotten violins were restored to life by a remarkable master violin maker in Tel Aviv, Israel.
It's about 15 years, 16 years that I'm looking everywhere in the world for the violins who survived the Holocaust. And people are proposing me instruments so I can get this special instrument here in Israel, restoring them, and preparing them for all the concerts that we are doing. Because it's very important to stay on the stage and to play on this instrument. This is the voice from another world. This is a voice that is lost completely.
If you think about it, just over 70 years ago, Jewish people were not allowed to play. Only in camps, under the most terrible conditions. Today, we take these instruments to the biggest stages in the world.
Look, the Nazis are not anymore. The violins, they are. And the violin are playing. And when they are playing, this is victory. And when it is victory, you cannot take it away.
Now that you've seen Amnon Weinstein and his son Avshi, who's actually now coming with the violins and traveling, I'll tell you a little bit about how it started. Amnon's parents left Poland in 1938 and moved to Palestine in the hopes of reestablishing a new life. His father, Moshe, opened a little violin shop, a violin maker and violin repair shop. They knew that there were so many incredible string instrument players in Tel Aviv at the time, especially with the presence of the then Palestine Symphony. They thought they were going to be able to have a new life and build a business. Well, that business developed and flourished, and then Amnon was born a couple of years later, and he became the second generation of the Violins of Hope, actually the violin maker. And then he grew to be an apprentice with his father. And after the Holocaust, a lot of the musicians who came from Europe, some of them part of the symphony, the Palestine Symphony, and others who just got to Palestine, they realized that they were using German instruments. A majority of the instruments played were German-made, and most of them chose not to want to play on them again. And they came and gave it to them and sold it to them and wanted them to have it because they themselves didn't want to play on it anymore. For many, many years, Amnon was not able to handle anything to do progressive or new ways. And after a while, he realized that these instruments need to be played in the future. And since many of them were beaten, battered, broken, and if he would restore them, they would be the example of survivors. And the instruments will live on way beyond us, and they will be the storytellers of the future. So in the middle 1990s, he came up with the idea of founding Violins of Hope program, which now has become a traveling teaching and cultural opportunity where the violins are played in orchestras, one like this and one on major stages. And then we take the instruments to schools where we teach the history of the Holocaust, not through dry textbooks, but through the music and the owners of these instruments. And as I say, they have gone through a great deal, and the power and the strength of the human spirit is reflected in these instruments. And I have another beautiful instrument here, which represents the klezmer culture of the Russian and Polish shtetls, where almost every home had a violin. Most of these violins are symbolized by a beautiful Magen David on the back, and this one particular one is with mother of pearl inlay, And from the front of it, you can see it's a beautiful instrument, probably used by a more well-to-do family. But these instruments are precious because the klezmer culture was also silenced during World War II. And in the 70s, it's enjoying a revival here in this country. It's somewhat like jazz, a great deal of improvisation. So with this, I hope you have enough of an introduction to Violins of Hope, because I'm sure you came to listen to the music and not to me. But just to tell you how I got to do this, my husband and I are both survivors. And if you're wondering, I'm what you physically and literally call a child survivor. I was born during the Holocaust. So when someone presented this to me and said, would you be interested? And for someone not having known one thing about the program, within 5-10 minutes, I knew it was just what the doctor ordered. I contacted the people in Tel Aviv, and within a couple of days, we had it all arranged. And at that time, 4.5 years ago, we were scheduled to have this in 2019. And now with a 2-year COVID postponement, here we are. And thank you again for being here. And thank you, Tammy, for making it possible. This is a dream come true because the violins are leaving this coming week. And this is the postponement of the Irvine Hebrew Day School program and the benefit that we can still do this because the violins are still sitting, 50 of them, in our bedroom. And very nostalgically, they're leaving next Sunday. So thank you for being here. And I don't want to steal Tammy's thunder, but I just want to say thank you to this incredible Gene Y, who is the musician in charge, because to bring it all together was no small feat, and Tammy will tell you all about it, but it just brings joy and tears of joy to my eyes. So thank you for being here, and enjoy.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our extraordinary, wonderfully talented conductor who flew across the country because this was his dream, to be able to be part of having his students, his longtime students and friends and colleagues play these instruments. Welcome, Gene Wee.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. The students and adults you see here on the stage come from half a dozen school districts here in Southern California, representing public schools, private schools, professional musicians, all, and we are delighted to present this program for you here today. For each one of these numbers, I do have a small number of remarks, but we'll begin without an introduction because you came here to hear the music. Oftentimes when we think about music from this period and we look at a work by Frédéric Chopin and wonder, what does this have to do with the 1930s and 40s? Chopin's work, this A Piano Etude, was actually taken and used as a popular song during the 30s. When the director of the Women's Orchestra, Alma Rosé, was imprisoned at Auschwitz, and she sang this resistance song. This song rings out within me. And this song, set to the music by Frédéric Chopin, was this life and support for her and her musicians. When the SS forbade the people from singing the words to this song, the musicians of her orchestra learned this music to play in the evening quietly so that they would bolster the spirits of all of their fellow musicians. The poet, Ilse Weber, wrote a number of songs she played on her guitar to comfort the children that were trapped with her. Among a number of lullabies, she wrote this particular touching tune that we have arranged for string orchestra. We talked about the children finding respite in this beautiful music. And of course, today we have a number of children, all of us on stage, and the number of these instruments from the collection, which we are really honored to be able to make music with them. I want to take a moment just right now, right after this piece, for us to point out all of them that are being played today in the concert. So musicians, if you are playing an instrument from the collection, could you please stand and face the audience with your instrument so they can see the instrument that you are playing. Notice that this is called Violins of Hope. Basses of Hope, hopefully will be coming later at another time. If you could show them the backs of your instruments as well, a number of them, beautiful. Our next work by the Mozart of his age, the young Felix Mendelssohn at age 12, who devised these string symphonies in tribute to his favorite musicians of the past from the earlier classical period. We're pleased to present the very first movement of his D major. A while back, Steven Spielberg approached John Williams and said, I need someone to write the music for this film I'm going to do about Oskar Schindler. And John Williams told him, you know, I don't feel like I'm the right person to ask to write this music. I don't feel quite worthy to do it. And Spielberg looked at him and said, well, yes, I understand you, but all the people who are have long passed, so I need you to do this. And of course, I mean, from the gentleman who brought us Star Wars and Jurassic Park and all these other things comes this beautiful score that he collaborated on together with the violinist Itzhak Perlman to bring one of the most memorable pieces from this entire modern era again, but helps us to remember these events that have transpired. And please welcome our soloist today, Audrey Ma. I'd like to point out this is a long-standing tradition that used to exist 80 to 100 years ago. Violin soloists today tend to not play anything with the orchestras that they play with. But it was different back in the 1900s, where many soloists sat and actually played all the rest of the music in the orchestra. And we're so delighted that Audrey, at the ripe old age of 11, has decided to sit here and learn the entire rest of the music for the orchestra too. And now for the musical theater work that probably doesn't need a lot of introduction, Fiddler on the Roof. I don't like much talking after concerts, so I want to take a moment here to express my deepest gratitude to Irvine Hebrew Day School and everybody here on the stage, and also our delightful staff and everyone working in audio and sound and lights who have made all of this stage possible. Our final work for you is a different setting of Hatikva. It comes from the film Munich, in which John Williams took the theme and made it a very florid sort of orchestration for string orchestra. And we are presenting it in the original version that is in the film. We hope that you enjoyed today's program, and we'll take a time after we have completed here to come and meet the musicians. I'm sure some of them have some stories to tell you about our rehearsal and putting together this concert and how meaningful it is to be part of the lives of these violins and there's a viola in there, by the way, and how just to be part of this journey as they continue to make music and hope through all of our lives. Thank you.